momentous day as we get ready for the meeting this season of the Cal-Stanford game. And I guess what we should do is just start with everyone's impressions. John, first with you on that day itself. I mean, this was an important game for you going into it. What were your thoughts?
Well, first of all, let me say it's hard to believe it's been 25 years. I know we don't look any different than we look back in 25 years ago. But, you know, I think that was it was a big game. And I think that at that point in time, for me, going in that we were 1-2, we lost my freshman year, we won my sophomore year, and then lost a year earlier. And then we're going in this one. So we're trying to get evened up. And plus, we were going in at 6-4 and really hoping for a bowl bid. And so not only was it the big game against the dirty Cal Golden Bears, but it was also for a chance to maybe get a bowl bid. So it was a huge game for us going into it.
Kevin, talk about the importance of the Stanford Axe and how much that means to the winning team to have possession of that.
Well, you know, in the Bay Area, it kind of culminates with that game. You know, it was that particular year, my senior year, John's senior year, you know, both teams had good seasons in regards to how they played prior to that game. And you know, the axe is kind of the symbol of the victor for that game, and it's important. It kind of culminates the season. It's a big deal in the Bay Area. You know, everybody kind of gets on one side or the other, and so, you know, that particular year, being our senior year particularly, it was kind of a focused game that everybody was kind of ready to play.
Gary, you talk about focus and certainly being a member of a very famous band. I mean, is every game the same for you, or did that game have special significance as well?
Well, it was my senior year as well, last regular season game as an undergraduate, and first bowl game potential, so we were pretty excited about that. But the whole big game week is really building up to Saturday, and my bandmates and I were pretty fired up for the opportunity.
Joe, speaking of opportunities, you've seen so many of these games. If you can remember 25 years ago, was it just business as usual as you prepared to get ready for just another meeting between these two teams?
Well, but it's never business as usual. Right. Cal-Stanford cannot be business as usual. Mm-hmm. It was a special game. And also remember, at that time, there were so few bowl games that this really became the target game for both schools every year, because it wasn't as if the winner was going to go to the Rose Bowl or the loser just was going to get some secondary bowl. This was everything, because you didn't know if you were going to have another game. And so it became a very, very big deal. And everybody in Northern California was very involved in it, and I'm very emotional about this game.
John, I understand, in fact, you said that you watched the game for the first time on the way in today. Looking back on it now, can you remember, was there, aside from the significance you four have just said, I mean, was there extra pressure? I mean, did you sort of know what it was at stake? Because I've read, of course, the Heisman was on the line, as you mentioned, the bowl, I mean, things like that.
Well, I think that, you know, the bottom line is we're looking at it as a team, we're looking at it as a bowl bid, a chance to bowl bid. Plus, it was you know, if we didn't get to the bowl, it was our last football game in our college career, and so, I mean, that added to it. And plus, as Kevin said, and Joe said, it's the big game. It's Stanford and Cal, and you always like to have those bragging rights for the year. And so, I mean, it was huge, and having it, I think, probably thinking back.
Now, the Bears in a seemingly impossible situation. They have only one timeout left. They pretty well have to run it back to save the game. And boy, talk about a heartbreaking way to lose. But what a great way to win if you are a Stanford fan.
Well, we've obviously set this up well enough, so it's time to get to the infamous play. And, you know, certainly John's exploits aside, I mean, forever almost to be overshadowed by this last 4-second glimpse. So, Kevin, let's talk about what happened after the field goal. You, as I've read, weren't even in the huddle when this play was called.
Well, we really didn't, you know, it was kind of a spontaneous event that occurred right after they had kicked the field goal. We had a lot of sideline frustration going on, and you know, our coach had called for our onside kick team to come out, and some guys were scattered, and so actually not everybody that was supposed to be on the team was out there. And I had just kind of walked out, and I know Richard Rodgers had gathered a few guys and just said, hey, don't let the ball die.
Was there ever a point where you thought there's no way out of this? I mean, this is a done deal, or was it still that instilled, point in all of you, which is never say never?
Well, yeah. I mean, I think going back to our coach, Joe Kapp, kind of instilled a little philosophy of, it's never over till it's over, and keep fighting till the end, and let's just go out there and react to whatever circumstances develop. And I was lucky enough to have the ball come to me, and my first thought was, I'm going to score. I'll get this thing over with.
I'll do it.
Yeah. Kind of 2 steps later, with 3 Stanford guys running at me,
Right.
I kind of had a quick change of mind, and just happened to see Richard standing on the sidelines and chucked it over to him, and then it kind of just unfolds on its own from there. It wasn't like we were sitting on the sideline saying, all right, we'll break out the play and we'll get it back.
Red right 87.
Yeah. So,
Joe, from your perspective, as you said, you didn't even remember using the line we talked about earlier. Is it still somewhat a blur when you try to truly remember how it went down at the moment?
Well, I think it would have been if I hadn't gotten the opportunity to see it at every luncheon I've been at in the last 25 years. It's an automatic. Yeah. But the most amazing part of the entire play to me was the last lateral, because Kevin and I have talked about this many times. There is no way Moret Ford could be aware that Kevin was off his shoulder when he threw that ball. I mean, that just was all part of this magical finish, because he just threw it up and hoped that the right color shirt would catch that ball, and even if you had yelled at him, I'm sure he wouldn't have been able to hear you, right? I mean, the noise was beyond all understanding, so it just happened to work.
The last true act of desperation, and as the band came on, and we will get to Gary's take on all this in a second, but as you started running through this sea of people, did you know it was the band? I mean, were you aware that there were too many defenders on the field at that point?
Well, at that point, I tell you, my focus was kind of like, hey, I got the ball, let's get in the end zone.
Right.
And the awareness that the band was out there was a little strange, but you know what? I just said, cover the ball and go. And unfortunately for Gary, I kind of met him at the end there. But, I'm kind of lucky that there wasn't 3 or 4 more guys I was running over on the way down. Just because, at that point, I just got the ball and just said, get in the end zone. And finally, I realized I was in the end zone and kind of started celebrating. And that's when I met Gary in the end zone.
Gary, now from your perspective, I mean, what was the cue that you or the other band members went off of to start the celebration, or what you thought should be a celebration?
Well, we were down on field level with about 2 minutes left to get ready for our post-game concert, so that was all typical. But as I said earlier, pretty tight area between the seats and the field. So we were all down there when the field goal went through, and we saw 2019 started dancing around, playing, celebrating, and it was really loud in that section of the stadium at that time. So kind of tough to see what was going on. Ball went off on the kickoff, clock went down to 0, and from my point of view, I could see all kinds of folks coming onto the field soon after that. The people with the axe were probably out on the 15. Some of my bandmates were even further out. Both bands, I think both teams as well, had members step onto the field. Probably about the time when Dwight Garner was down, which is sort of like the first controversial lateral.
Right.
And so we're still playing a song. I turned around to find the drum major, and just out of the corner of my eyes, I saw this guy in the end zone, and he had the ball. And it's like, get out of here.
Yeah. Why are you raining on my parade?
He thought he wanted to play.
And then the cannon went off, and then the south section of the stadium was much quieter.
Yeah. Notice how he said Garner was down.
That's what happens in Palo Alto. Really down.
That's right. That's good. Well, Joe, you mentioned how it's been 25 years of luncheons and being reminded of this at every stop of the way. I mean, you are not a man that has any ego whatsoever, but how does it feel to be part of the greatest call in college football history?
I feel very lucky. I mean, I was the guy at the right place at the right time. There was a Stanford broadcast, there was a local television broadcast, but the only broadcast that could capture what happened would have to be the Cal announcer.
Wait, all the band is out on the field. He's going to go in the end zone. He's going in the end zone. victory by Stanford. You have to give them all sorts of credit. 4th and 17 at their own 13-yard line, a defeat staring them in the face, and they saved it. They pulled it out. What a show. All right, here we go with the kickoff. Harmon will probably try to squib it, and he does. Ball comes loose, and the Bears have to get out of bounds. Rogers along the sideline, another one. They're still in deep trouble in midfield. They tried to do a couple of... The ball is still loose as they get it to Rogers. They give it back now to the 30. They're down to the 20. Oh, the band is out on the field. He's going to go into the end zone. He's going into the end zone. Will it count? The Bears have scored, but the bands are out on the field. There were flags all over the place. Wait and see what happens. We don't know who won the game. They're still in deep trouble. Oh, the band is out on the field.
Being this the first time that all four of you have been together, let's finally settle this once and for all. We've got a vote for Cal. Was Garner down?
Oh, absolutely.
All right.
Absolutely.
I think no.
You know what? The Cal Engineering Department did an analysis on that, a slow motion thing, and they determined that he had a good quarter-inch left before he was
He
down.
was turning back going the other direction when he fixed it.
Yeah. So no, it was all legal.
All right, Jer.
I'll raise the last lateral as a forward lateral.
All right. There you go. Well, I mean, certainly, this is a game that will live in the history books forever. I mean, based on what has happened. And John, I think another question that people would like to know is, this was something that was a pivotal point for you, I think, in your life. Was this something that then later fueled you in your professional career? Was it something you ever revisited for motivation?
Well, I think if anything, you realize that anything can happen at the end of a football game. And having experienced it, obviously it makes it more important the more you move on in your career. So I think that there's no question, having seen that, been through it, and not so much the play, but what we did as a team on 4th and 17 and picked up that first down and got down in position to kick the game winner at that point in time. So, I mean, there's no question that experience that helped me as I went on my career. Now, obviously, at that point in time, my life had ended. The light that was over, and I'm sitting on the bus, and everything's going right down the drain. But obviously, it didn't. And
He bounced back.
He did all right, didn't he?
And how many times in his career did we see him win games like that?
Exactly
the
that.
great playoff against Cleveland, all those terrific victories. I mean,
it's funny, and I believe in sport, everything really kind of evens out, and so believe me, there was plenty of things in my career that evened out, that game. So I mean,
I felt sorry for him up until the time he won the Super Bowl. Then I felt, he'll be all right. He'll be all right.
And then you can finally move forward.
Yeah, I remember watching that and saying, all right, I don't have to worry about him.
Right, that's good. Well, after the game, as you probably remember, because again, something that's been written a lot about, I mean, you made comments to the effect of, this is a travesty. This is the worst thing that's ever happened to college football. I mean, I've got to think, as we're all joking now, certainly that was the heat of the moment. That was the passion.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, they're all emotional. At that point in time when you're so excited, and all of a sudden you really think that, not as we talked about earlier, having a chance to go to a bowl game, and then really kind of everything stripped away from you when you really don't know on a play that, as it went down, we lose the game. But really what were the penalties, or still they're unexplained. But at that point in time, it was strictly emotional from a 21-year-old kid that saw his life flash in front of him. And really thought that we were going to have a victory
passion
there.
of the big game.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, and that's really on both sides of the ball. And I wasn't the only one that felt that way, but it was that's why it's such a great game to be able to play into and play in, and something that I'll never forget.
Certainly your success is well documented, but let's go down the line, guys. I mean, Gary, what has that game meant to you? And certainly you two have developed a great friendship just because of this happenstance.
Yeah. Well, in my case, I peaked when I was 21 years old. I've just been cruising since then. So all the pressure's off me.
Good.
But one of the great things about it is I'm a huge Stanford fan, and this will be my 29th consecutive big game that I'll be attending. And just to have a little piece in the history of the rivalry between the schools is a pretty neat feeling. And I've met some nice friends along the way.
How about for you, Kevin?
Well, you know, it was just a great time to be a part of a unique finish in college sports. It kind of ties you back to the university. It ties you back to kind of college football as a whole. So, you know, for me, it was my senior year, last play. It was kind of a magical way to kind of end things. And, you know, that in retrospect ended up being the last time I played football in a competitive arena. So, you know, it gave me just a great memory to look back on, a great, you know, it's fun to be a part of something that kind of lives on, and, you know, it's just a good thing to be a part of.
Joe, as we've said, you know, your voice will forever be linked to that. You continue to do Cal games. For you, has anything ever reached the level that moment had?
No, nothing has matched that. I did have the opportunity of being at the Russia-U.S. hockey game in Lake Placid. I actually called a radio broadcast for the West Coast on that game, and that had this giant impact, in effect, all over the world, because we weren't supposed to be able to beat the Russians in hockey. But for a particular instance, nothing could match the play, and there's no doubt about it. It was absolutely unique, and obviously it still lives on. In fact, you know, I never wear a tie, but I wear a tie today, and this one has the entire play on it. And so if you are a Cal fan and want to help with the athletic department, you can buy one of these, and the money goes for scholarships. How's that for a little plug?
There you go.
Well, guys, I mean, certainly thank you again for being here. You know, this rivalry will live on. It's one of the greatest in college football and in sports. So thank you for your time, and who knows what's going to happen this year. Cal-Stanford, we're going to have to wait and see.
Problem is that although the kickoff will now come from the 25-yard line, it's unlikely that Ford can get the ball and get out of bounds far enough upfield to set up one try at the field goal. What a recovery by Stanford. You have to give them all sorts of credit. 4th and 17 at their own 13-yard line, and defeat Dairyman in the face, and they saved it. They pulled it out. What a show. All right, here we go with the kickoff. Will probably try to squib it, and he does. Ball comes loose, and the Bears have to get out of bounds. Rogers along the sideline, another one. They're still in deep trouble at midfield. They tried to do a couple of... The ball is still loose as they get it to Rogers. They give it back now to the 30. They're down to the 20. Oh, the band is out on the field. He's going to go into the end zone. He's going to go in the end zone. Will it count? The Bears have scored, but the bands are out on the field. There were flags all over the place. Wait and see what happens. We don't know who won the game. There are flags on the field. We have to see whether or not the flags are against Stanford or Cal. The Bears may have made some illegal laterals. It could be that it won't count. The Bears, believe it or not, took it all the way into the end zone. If the penalty is against Stanford, California would win the game. If it is not, the game is over and Stanford has won. We've heard no decision yet. Everybody's milling around on the field. The Bears have won. The Bears have won. Oh, my God. The most amazing, sensational, dramatic, heart-rending, exciting, thrilling finish in the history of college football. California has won the big game over Stanford. Oh, excuse me for my voice, but I have never seen anything like it in the history.
The big game, the rivalry game for California and Stanford in Stanford Stadium in just its second season, 9:47 in the third quarter. And Stanford feeling a little bit better about playing at home. They're playing better, they're getting more support, more enthusiasm, as Tavita Pritchard now is the quarterback, and the handoff to Jeremy Stewart for a short gain. This is the most students that have been here for a Stanford football game, I think, in the 2 years of this stadium. And students this year were given free admission to Stanford home football games, subsidized by an anonymous donor. And your admission for the big game today was based on the number of games you attended previously.
Is that
this year.
right?
Yeah.
That's an interesting way to do it.
I'm not sure those were the road scholars. Second down at 7. And Pritchard lobbing one down the far side for Evan Moore, and he couldn't get past Sidquan Thompson, and the officials ruled there was a reason.
Yeah.
Thompson had contact.
I think this is going to be holding on.
Davita Pritchard quarterbacking. Tyrone McGraw is the running back, and McGraw gets outside. And McGraw takes it down to the
See the opening, you have to get to it quickly because it doesn't stay open very long.
Would he qualify as what we used to call a scat back?
Yeah, I think you're right. He's a little dude, 5'9", 185 pounds, but he has some quickness to him.
Fullback is in front of him, Owen Marisic. Leading the blocking, McGraw outside. And McGraw down to the 1. Tyrone McGraw, who ran track. He was a high school track champion in San Francisco. Play. First and goal. Richard rolling, looking for wide open. Austin Gunder, touchdown, Stanford.
Jim Harbaugh might go out there and headbutt somebody before long. Offensive football is so easy when your offense can first run the ball, and that's what Stanford did on that drive. They ran it effectively, the play-action touchdown pass late.
So Stanford has seized the second half momentum, 20-10.
Remember, McGraw running successfully, and then Pritchard pulls it out and throws it to Gunder in the end zone. Tavita understands that this is an important game. My first big game, and oh, by the way, my head coach's first big game as well.
Cal's huge offensive threat not playing in this game. Here's a Snyder blitz up the middle. Quick slant, not held by Hawkins.
And that is absolutely the essence of what Scott Schaefer wants to do defensively for Stanford. Is they want to get ahead in the down and distance, then on third down, just make a play to get off the field, get enough pressure.
Bench, and the coaches are really appealing to players to just do their job. It's gotten as simple as that. But the weird thing about it is I don't see really any outburst of emotion. No one's stepping up to say to the team that we've got to do something differently. And think back to our conversation with Tedford this week, talking about the expectations being so great, but the injuries, other setbacks, then the tough part of the schedule came along, and just the frustration continues for the season and now for this game.
That's a great point, Lewis. It was Brian Holley, by the way, was the gunner that made that tackle for Cal. McGraw slips and falls here for Stanford. But just, you know,
Out to hope that they can win this football game today.
Stanford's brought in a freshman, Corey Gatewood. Mentioned he just shifted positions a couple of weeks ago. He's out as a wide receiver here. And they're going to run a little screen over the middle. Nice design. This is Doug Baldwin. And Baldwin is out of bounds, but not before he crosses midfield with a Stanford first down.
And this is the injuries afford you the opportunity to do, is move guys around and see if maybe we have a player in a different position.
3rd and 9. Ladner, tight end, first down, Stanford. TC Ostrander. Ladner's second catch, and that's so California with a first down. And here comes the pressure from Maynor, and Longshore gets rid of it. So that's at least the third time, and Longshore's down. Longshore not getting up. Not yet, now he does. All right, that's the third time, though, Kelly, we've seen that, where someone's come in untouched.
And it's been at least 2.
2nd and 10. Same ball back for Hawkins, again incomplete. McNally came in with a late hit on Hawkins to be sure he didn't hang on.
Little better coverage that time, but I'm not so sure Hawkins didn't have an opportunity on that play as well. Looked like he got it.
3rd down. Almost picked. Is picked. Nick Sanchez.
That you would like to utilize his mobility. Don't put the ball in the air. Allow Pritchard to keep it and try to make something happen.
You notice there are a lot of game faces right there, aren't there?
Yeah.
Each team, each school hunt the ball away, and Cal's probably going to have time for one play. and the grim faces on the Cal side.
They've gotten closer together.
Yes.
They've closed that gap. They're going to be nose to nose before the last second ticks off. I guess that's the point, right?
Well, Stanford does take good ladder. Let's see. Longshore wings one. It is incomplete, and the game is over. And the axe does change hands for the first time in 6 years. And the Stanford Cardinal have defeated the California Golden Bears to win the big game. Jim Harbaugh's first big game is a win. And for Jeff Tedford and California, bitter disappointment to end this season. The season that started with California walloping Tennessee in mid-October. They